So welcome to part 3, modelling the old school joystick. So this is where we left off, and I just did a little bit of tweaking, bit of tidying up, got that sort of into a circular shape, and I just used the move brush, the regular Zbrush move brush, and just lined it up with this, so we have a sort of a parallel edge around here. And I decided to just using the edge loop scale tool from Zmodeler just to bring this out a bit, just so I'd have an extra step there. And that's how we're going to start, by selecting the base D to go out with dynamic subdivision. And now I'm going to do the same thing here, is steal this geometry. So with the Zmodeler brush, we can just go to inset polygroup island and just inset that, and I'll just press D just so we can see where that's at, and D again, and then we're just going to break that away. Q mesh polygroup island, hold control, break it away, and then Q mesh polygroup island again, just so we can get an idea of the size it's going to be when subdivided. So I'm just going to turn off dynamic subdivision, and it's going to have to be scaled a bit bigger, but I'm just going to auto groups this, and now we can control shift click to isolate that, split hidden, and now it's its own subtool. So I'm going to just do a crease. Now remember, it keeps the same settings because we broke it away from that tool. So just crease and D, and now we can kind of get a better idea. And now we can also just use this size slider to scale it here. It's quite sensitive, so I might jump into the Zmodeler, drag out the transpose, click the white circle, click the axis line, and just shift. And sorry, you don't even have to actually use shift as well, just to break that away. And now I'm going to also go back to move, and you can see then I'm just going to move it slightly below that, as you can see there in the reference. And I think I just want to solo this out. Sorry, yeah, just needs to be subdivided. Thought something weird happened. So I'll bring that up a little bit more. You can also turn on transparent, then we can see exactly where we are in relation to the other one. So now it's just a matter of if you look at this, it's kind of pyramidically sort of stepped up here, and it has sort of curves, peaks and valleys with curves on them. So what we can do is just extrude or Q mesh inset, Q mesh inset, Q mesh inset. So there's one inset, and it steps up 1, 2, 3, and then we'll create this part separate. So I'll just turn on polyframe, turn off dynamic subdivision. So we're just gonna split that vert in the middle and to about there, maybe a bit further out. And now Q mesh polygroup island, and Q mesh up once, and just eyeballing that as usual. And we can just split that out again and just do this. You can do this instead of inset. So that's the first step. and if you just click, it'll repeat the last, so you'll get the exact same size as the last one. So and then just click, and that's gonna repeat last. So we have our kind of basic the steps, and now in between each of those we need to go down. So a tool I like using is insert multiple edge loops, interactive resolution, interactive elevation, and then if I click, drag, and drag the mouse left and right and up and down, we can get this interactive elevation. So it's going to extrude along the normals and curve as well, depending on how many edge loops you want. So I'm just going to set it at that and click another one, and then I'm just going to do the same thing with this point here and click another one, and now we kind of get that effect. Just bring this in here, you know, we're kind of getting that effect there. The only difference is there we might want to round that off more. So, you know, we've got creasing there, so I'd probably want to get rid of that creasing. So crease, edge loop complete, and then just hold Alt and just click and click along that creasing, and try it again. And we'd also want to get rid of this creasing here. And now that's kind of more what we're looking for. And you could also, you know, there's no space between these here, so if you wanted to add some space in there, you could just undo that before the interactive elevation, and then we could just add some edge loops. Sorry, go back to single edge loop and just add in some edge loops here to sort of to break that away. Split that point and add an edge loop here, and now we can do that again. Multiple edge loops, interactive resolution, interactive elevation. So click, hold the mouse down, drag up to give you more spans or edge loops, and then go right to bring it up in the air, and it'll probably, that's good there. And then just click to repeat last, click to repeat last, and then we want to just check it first, get rid of that creasing. Whoa. So just go back to crease, and then just Alt click as we did before, and that's it pretty much. And that just gives us a bit more space in between. So now we'll do this part here, and you notice about this part here, it's circular on the outside, and then it's hexagonal on the inside, so it's angled and then circular. So I'll show you a quick way to do that using creasing. So for this part here, it's hexagonal as I said, so it's 6 sides, so we're going to want to use an 18-sided cylinder, and you'll see why now as I'm creating. So I'm just going to go to switch over to cylinder 3D, and just come down to initialize and set the sides to 18, and just bring this all the way down to 3, and back up again, make polymesh 3D, and now I'm going to just or actually we can just show you another function. Instead of appending, we can just copy and paste in R7 from subtool, or from tool to tool. So copy, and then just go back to our joystick, back down the subtool list, and just paste that in, and alt click on it to activate it, and just bring the size down and bring it down a bit more, and then we'll just move it into position, transpose line, and because everything's created in the center of the canvas, it's just aligned, it's aligned perfectly. So scale, drag out white circle and outer little circle to just bring that up about there, and then I'm just going to clip that probably to about there. And to Zmodeler, and now I'm just going to insert an edge, single edge loop around where we want it, and probably about there. And now I'm just going to alt click to tag all these faces with a temporary white poly group, and Q mesh down. Doesn't matter how far we go down, because the inner part of this is going to be hidden by the joystick part. Now to do this, you know, you can't cut in any edges around because it'll disturb the circular part on the outside here. So I'm going to use radial symmetry in Y, so I'll press X, and radial symmetry press R, and remember it's 18 sides, so we want to divide 6 into 18, so that's 3. So we need 3 edges, or sorry, 3 faces to angle on every third face. So we'll set this to 6, and sorry, that's going to be in Y, and I'm just going to go to crease and crease an edge, and just going to crease these edges here, and we're going to have to crease. I want to actually just solder that out, and I'm just going to poly group, poly loop, and it's acting the bollocks. So I also want to bevel edge loop complete. I want to bevel that, and you see it got rid of that crease, and I'll show you that in a second now. And also then we can crease edge loop complete and just crease that. Sorry, I just had a crash there, so I lost up to what we've done, but back to here again, just with the cylinder. So back to what we were doing, we need to straighten out between these 3 faces. So you can just go to slide and just straighten these out. To give us our hex shape. And then we could no, I'll leave it at that actually. And now I want to Q mesh polygroup island, give us our depth, and just going to set the group by normals up, group by normals, crease polygroup, and now we can just come in and crease those edges, still with the Y radial symmetry at 6 on. And now you can see there's our hex shape in a cylinder. So that's exactly what we want. And I'll just turn off symmetry and bevel, edge loop complete, I'm just going to bevel that out, and before I do that I'm going to insert an edge loop in here. Hold shift to snap it to parallel, just to kind of protect that before the bevel. So now when we bevel and subdivide, you can see that it's protected in there. And then if you get this kind of an issue happening, that's from creasing across a pole here. Sorry, not a pole, but because these these edges are perpendicular, they're at 90 degrees to each other, it just creates that issue there. So you can resolve that by just crease, turn symmetry back on, press X, and just crease those edges, and now you can see it's holding there. So these are kind of you know, just simple sort of simple tricks to kind of things you know, the better you understand these principles of, especially with subdivision modeling, the easier it'll be to solve, resolve and spot these kind of issues. So our bevel there might be too soft, so I might actually just put an edge loop in here, insert an edge loop and put one here, and then we could probably crease this edge loop. And here's more issues with the creasing. So what you could do is just to crease edge and just alt click that to remove it. And because that crease is terminated there on a flat surface, it's not causing an artifact, whereas here we're having that same problem because there was a surface change. And as I say, these are sort of the fundamentals of subdivisional modeling, which is what we're doing here. So lastly, you know, I might just maybe move, or not move, sorry, I'll just transpose, move, oh no, sorry, what we can do is just I might just get rid of that one, insert a single edge loop, alt click, and then just slide edge loop complete, and that'll slide that edge loop down and also constrain it to these edges here, just to make that a bit bigger. And this is still quite soft because it has this part in it as well, so it's sort of, as I was saying earlier about bevels being soft for game models that have baked normal maps to read at a distance, but that reads, you know, reads pretty good. Obviously it depends on the asset. If it's a hero asset, background asset, large, small, it's going to be a pair asset sort of thing, but it's just general guidelines. So unsolo that, and that there would be fine for a bake, even though it's just jammed in there, because you can bake, do what's called exploded baking, or else you can in Substance Painter you can bake by matching mesh names. So the raycast will be isolated between each object if you explode or match by mesh name. So you're not going to get rays cast, say, in a tight area like this. The rays would cast out this way and out this way, and they would bleed across onto these other parts, and that would be, and that always is unwanted. So lastly, and probably most simply, is the joystick itself. So we can just turn off symmetry, pressing X, and you can insert or inset. So I'll just insert an edge loop and make that quite tight, and then I'm going to just alt paint tag these faces with a temporary white polygroup, and then QMesh a polygroup island, and then we can simply QMesh a polygroup island again and hold press and hold shift, drag it up, or else we could just, you know, come over here, invert that, move, and middle circle, and then kind of get it to height that we want. So maybe a little bit higher, and I can crease this now and just drop down. First though, I'm gonna go back to draw mode and Control Shift click, Control Shift click, Control Shift click, and that is going to isolate that part. Then we can Control Shift drag, and if you've got a clip brush or slice curve or any of those on, you can just tap whilst you're still holding down. You can tap Control to switch over, and then swipe, and that'll invert that, and that's the pieces we want. And then we can say split hidden and alt click on that, D for dynamic subdivision, alt click on this to make that active. And now we can crease here with our angle tolerance. You can drop it down quite low to maybe just under 30 and crease, and they all fell within the threshold, so they all get creased. And then we can just QMesh this up, and we can bevel this. This has kind of a sharpish bevel on it, so we can bevel that, and we also want to continue that crease up there, but I'll probably I'll probably get rid of this edge loop here, so alt click to get rid of it, and crease polygroups, and D, see what that looks like. And we just need to sort out the bottom there, because there's nothing supporting that, and even though that's creased, it shouldn't shrink, but I think it's a bug that's been in Zbrush for a couple of releases. So I can just simply go to an edge, hang on a sec, and insert an edge loop at the bottom, and that's another kind of a, you know, it's a control edge. So, but as I say, that shouldn't really happen there. So our joystick is also kind of tapered at the top, so what we could do there is just mask off the top parts, invert the mask, scale, white circle, and just dragging that upper inner circle to taper it in. Maybe that's a bit much, just taper it in slightly, and D, and turn off dynamic, and there we have our joystick. So that's pretty much it. That's the joystick finished. Oh no, sorry, it's not. We still need to add in these parts, and also I'm looking at the joystick now, and it looks way too skinny, or sorry, way too tall. And also I'm going to scale this out to close up this gap. So scale, white circle, and drag that out, close up the gap, white circle, drag that out, and now Just do the same again, white circle, and we can make the joystick bigger. And I think that suits a bit better. Right, so let's create this detail with radial symmetry. So the first thing I'm going to do, and it's a good working habit to get into, is to get in the habit of duplicating subtools to use them for other purposes. So they're only going to be you know, temporarily, like a kind of a throwaway workbench, if you like. So you'll see in a minute why. Because if I try to add, you know, if you try to use insert brushes, you know, at a high radial count here on a dynamic subdivided mesh, it's going to be real sluggish. So I can classically subdivide it, but you can't have subdivision history that isn't dynamic subdivision. So in other words, traditional sub-D, you have to freeze subdivisions if you want to do a lot of ZBrush operations that require you to have no subdivision history. So I'll show rather than talk more, so I'll just duplicate it, solo that out, D to get out dynamic subdivision, Control D to divide it up a few times, delete lower, and now I can use an insert brush. So BI, and we'll use in this one here, insert cube, and then X, radial symmetry Y, and I'm not sure exactly, I'm not going to count these up. You're welcome to have a go yourself, but I'm not going to count them up. I'm just going to call it 36 and see how that goes. So I'm going to zoom in a bit here and just drag it out, and probably to there. Just want to try and, yeah, that's not too bad. Now we'll go to move, and I want to drag out, let's get that out of my way, drag this out and kind of line it up, and just make sure that it's lined up properly, not too bad, and then just shift drag the outer circle to make that narrower, and then we can just use clip curve or transpose line just to bring them down to the right size. Now these details, I'm just gonna split mask points, and then we can delete that. We don't need that anymore, so that's why I used that temporary throwaway, as I said, and bring this stuff back. And I'm actually gonna bring that back. So some people have trouble with a lot of people, actually, even very experienced users, the subtool, this pisses them off. That's why I recently purchased Scene Manager, which is one of the greatest plugins ever. Actually just today I purchased it. I haven't got a chance to play with it, but this gives you proper layer control with huge functionality in ZBrush. So I'm going to start using it soon. I just bought it today, so it's well worth having a look at. Scene Manager it's called. So meanwhile, back to the good old subtool list here. You know, people say, oh, I'm clicking all over the place, and they don't know, it seems random a lot of the time, but what you do is, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. What you do is, you know, you click on the eyeball, everything comes back, and oh, what's going on? So if you click here away from the eyeball on the tool, that'll become active, and then you can turn other tools on or off. So it's a handy little tip. So then if I click on this and then click on that again, it's going to come back, and now we can get rid of that. Now we can have a look at where we're at. Now the likes of this here, you can still see that this still isn't lined up perfectly, and that's if I was, this is just for a tutorial, but if I was creating this for an actual production asset or whatever, I would definitely make sure to sort this out. I wouldn't leave this like this, but for the sake of this tutorial, real time and all as it is, and whatever, nearly 2 in the morning, I'm just going to plow on ahead. But it would be sloppy for me to just leave it like this, and I wouldn't. But as I say, for the demonstration, for the tutorial, that's exactly what I was going to do. Right, so come back to move, and I'm just gonna X, turn symmetry on, clear that, and just mask that out. And you can't even invert the mask. Sorry, you don't even need to mask anything because symmetry's on. I'm just gonna, oh, wrong one. And now something weird's going on. So I'm just gonna undo that. Don't know what happened there. And I want to alt click on these, and you can just move them, and we could also rotate them. And then what I wanted to do earlier was clip them or move them down, whichever. And as I said, this wouldn't be really in the silhouette of the model, so you don't even have to bake this into your normal map. You can, if you're using paint or something, or whatever, Endo or something, you can just create it at the texturing phase to save you doing it here. Either, whichever suits each individual or each workflow or pipeline or whatever. So then, as I said, with the sloppiness thing, I'm going to leave this, even though it's unsightly and I hate it, but I just have to live with it. And so are you. So you can also see there's 4 quadrants here, kind of. So there, and there. I don't know what that says, but some weird tardy thing probably. So you could add these in quite simply. 36. So that's 9. So every 9 of them would be in a quadrant. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you'd put one here instead of this. So what I would do then is just create a separate one, but and then just place it in as an insert brush. So I'm not going to do it here, as I say, because time wise and all the rest of it, I'm just going to leave it at that. But what I will say is, you know, I've shown enough here, and it'll actually be a good sort of an end of tutorial kind of practice for you, is to just go in and make one of them. So, you know, switch over to a tool, any other tool, create a quick cube, and then simply just, you know, take out some edge loops here, and just start from a 6-sided cube, and then just Q mesh out, Q mesh up, edge, slide an edge loop this way, and maybe slide that one in that way. Sorry, it's on edge loop complete, slide an edge, slide that in. I go to front view, you know, and that's pretty much what the shape looks like. So I could Q mesh this, hold shift to drag it up a bit, and do the same here, hold shift, drag that out, and you know, it's a simple kind of a shape. And then you could just set the crease tolerance down, crease it, and you know, that's pretty much it. And then just set it up on your canvas, brush, create insert brush, new brush, and I said I wasn't going to do this, but now I'm doing it. Back to the joystick, select this, and then maybe Control Shift and hold Alt, and I just have to turn off symmetry. Control Shift, tap Control again, hold Alt to hide them, and delete hidden. And now our insert brush is ready to go. So we could just put that there and then move it into position. And then I could just draw another one out here. I'll tell you what the easiest thing to do is just go back here, Shift F, and then just brush, create insert mesh, and then just append it, and then OK, back here, and now we can draw it out from the other side. And another thing with insert brushes, so I'm just going to get rid of that one, is whatever size the brush is when you draw it out, if you hold Control, it snaps to that size. So it's handy for things like this. So we'll drag it out on this side. Too big. Once you set this up once, then if you're doing loads of bits, so yeah, let's say that's it there. Then just move it into position. Q to go back to draw, M to bring up your multi-mesh, and this one is the same one. So M, the first one then, and drag it out, and hold Control, snap it, automatically masks the other one, Shift drag, and yeah, you get the idea. So that's pretty much that. And then you could just, as I say, count whatever, 9 around, place another one there, another one there, another one there. And I think I'll call this complete. So that's the end of this joystick, old school joystick modeling course, couple of tutorials, and I hope it was helpful. It was aimed at beginners, and I hope it's done the job. So that's the end of the first. This is supposed to be quick sort of game tips and things, and it's 3 40-minute tutorials. I'll have to just learn to not blab on as much as I do, which I'm doing now again. So yeah, that's it now, and look out for more game shoots. They won't all be as long as this, but there might be some quick tips and things and short videos and whatnot, and maybe more series in the future. So yeah, that's the lot. Alright, thanks for watching. Cheers, thanks, good luck.